Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series, Saturday Morning Cartoons, where I take a look at some of my favorite licensed video games based on some of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons. And today it's the first of maybe 2 episodes on the Turtles, TMNT 4, Turtles in Time. Now this is technically a direct sequel to the arcade original beat 'em up from Konami, but they use the naming conventions from consoles to make this the 4th game. But if I'm playing it on the Super Nintendo, there must be a reason, and that's because outside of losing 4-player support, the Super Nintendo version of the game is the better version to play. And if you've been watching my channel, you know how much I love and advocate for hardware from the arcade, so you know if I'm playing it on console, that must be the way to do it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Turtles in Time is a perfect beat 'em up, even if you were not a fan of the franchise. But if you do love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like I do, it is that much better. And I love Mega Krang in the background there, with his mouth just wide open, shooting laser beams across the first stage. This game is spectacle from the moment you hit start, and it does not let up until the moment you see the end credits roll. It's action-packed, it's got great combat, it has everything you want in a beat-em-up game on the Super Nintendo, and then when you add that Turtles franchise in on the top, it is just sheer perfection. Because when I say I was a fan of this cartoon back in the day, I mean it. I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles bedsheet set, I had a tent, I had a sleeping bag, I had a birthday party at Pizza Hut with Ninja Turtles themed plates. I loved this, and I know so many of you did as well. And it's not like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have gone anywhere. I did a review on Shredder's Revenge a few months ago, another spectacular game, and I hope that we get even more beat-em-ups in this franchise. But right off the top, the combat is spectacular. Sometimes in beat-em-ups, they have an issue where if you're not perfectly lined up with your opponent, your shots miss. This game is very forgiving on that. So long as you're in the general vicinity, you are going to strike your opponent. But the game is not easy. It's not like it's going to give you free hits. This is a challenging game, and off your first, second, or even third playthrough, you may not be able to see the credits on normal with the amount of continues they give you. But you'll see there I just threw an enemy at the screen. On the Super Nintendo, you get Mode 7 scaling effects that were never in the arcade, but unfortunately if you look at the top of the screen, you only get 2 players. So this is the type of game where you should play it both on the Super Nintendo and the arcade version to get the full sense of what's going on. I do own an original board, and I thought about showing it, but I still really do prefer the Super Nintendo version, and I am playing this on Mr. FPGA, which is a great way to play it even if I have an original cartridge as well. I own this game on both the console and the arcade board, so you know I really do love the damn thing. There's so much to love about this game. In and of itself, a beat 'em up is an awesome genre, and if you grew up in the 18 and 16-bit era, pretty much like every 5th game was a beat 'em up. And I will say the boss fights are spectacular as well, but you get things that aren't just straight beat 'em up levels, which I do appreciate that they mix the combat up in it. Obviously you get this sewer surfboard. Can't imagine surfing in the sewer. That water must not be clean, but the turtles live down there, so they're probably used to it. But trying to attack the Foot Clan soldiers surfing around as well, it's just fun, and I don't know, those seem to be just completely ripped out from the Aliens franchise, but what are you going to do? Inspiration is inspiration no matter where you find it. But I just like that this game changes things up ever so slightly and gives you different things to do. But we haven't even gotten to the main hook of the game yet. I'm saving that for the back half of the video to talk about it. But Rat King here on his sewer hoverboard with those missiles. The sprite is huge. This is really pushing the Super Nintendo for all it's worth, and you're never really getting any slowdown whatsoever. This game runs at a rock solid 60 frames a second, and that's exactly what you want when you're playing a game like this. You want no slowdown to get in your way. But the boss fights are just a ton of fun. I love them, and I love seeing all the different characters from the game. And just like in the classic arcade fashion, you get a tiny cutscene, but it is not very long at all. It just kind of tells you where you're going next, and I love those glowing feet on the wall for the Foot Clan. I've never understood the Foot Clan though. They're just ninjas, but maybe Shredder had a thing for feet. Leave me a comment down below and tell me why you think he called them that. Maybe it's in the Turtles canon somewhere and I forgot, so if it is, you can correct me down below. People do love doing that. But again, this is just one of those great games from my childhood. I got this, I think, for my birthday one year, maybe the birthday that I had the Turtles themed party, and loved it. But the soundtrack, spectacular. Listen for 45 seconds, let them show you what else happens.
Pizza time!
It's a great soundtrack, and I'll let you listen to some more in a little bit, but this game adheres to the beat 'em up commandment that is, if it's not a beat 'em up, you can't have an elevator, and if it's a beat 'em up, you have to have one. Every great beat 'em up has an elevator sequence, and Turtles in Time is no different. But I know what you're wondering if you never played the game, why are you fighting Shredder so early in the video? And I'll get to that in just a moment, but I love how they use the Mode 7 effects to throw the Foot Clan soldiers into the screen and hit Shredder. It's an awesome look, and I love how large his sprite is as well. Granted, there's not that many frames of animation, and that's why they can pull off such a large sprite, but this looks like the maximum ability of the Super Nintendo. It just works so perfectly. But Shredder is mad, his patience is wearing thin, and he's going to be banishing us to a time warp. So if you didn't realize, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shares a universe with Rocky Horror Picture Show. That is true. Where do you think Shredder learned the time warp from? Well, he learned it from Dr. Frankenfurter, and you heard it here first. All jokes aside, I couldn't help but make that joke. But now we are back in time, the main hook of the game, and we're in the prehistoric era, and these dinosaurs are dropping eggs that explode. So they must have eaten at either Chipotle or Taco Bell last night, because in my experience, eggs don't have fire to them otherwise. But another joke aside, I just love how this game changes things up. Obviously, we've already seen, the New York aspect of the Turtles in past games. So what were they going to do as a continuation of that? Well, they let you travel through antiquity, beating up Foot Clan soldiers in the past. And I'm not sure if Shredder sent them back early in anticipation of the Turtles, or if he just shipped them all here at the same time. It'd be really sad if the Foot Clan was just stuck around with dinosaurs waiting just in case one of the Turtles showed up. And I'm not sure who's delivering pizza to the prehistoric era, but it is still here. But moving on, this game has such a great slapstick sense of humor, and the cartoon did as well. I stepped on that board there with Donatello, and it came up and hit us right in the face. That's old school slapstick comedy. But I love that we've gone from the prehistoric era fighting the Foot Clan soldiers and dinosaurs to now being on a pirate ship. It's just so much fun, and this ship in the background is going to be shooting these massive cannonballs towards us, and you don't want to get hit by one or else you get completely flattened out, but I do love the animation. And this game is just filled with detail. Bebop and Rocksteady here dressed as high seas soldiers. It just works. It is a ton of fun, and you get the flair of Turtles and all of the characters, but because the developers and artists were able to play around with different time periods, there's a sense of creativity and inventiveness in this game that I think is probably the best in the franchise overall. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think, because I'm always curious to hear what your favorite games are, especially in a franchise like this. But this is something you're not going to be seeing much of in the arcades, and that is all that Mode 7, and that's why I say the Super Nintendo version is the superior version unless you want to play with 4 players. Now this game does lose a few frames of animation, and technically, at least on a hardware side, it is much inferior to the arcade version, but honestly what you get in addition versus what you lose is not that big of a deal. And honestly, do you even have 3 friends to play video games with? I'm pretty sure you don't have any friends. I'm kidding, I'm sure you've got plenty of friends. I actually don't have 4 friends that play video games. I have exactly 1 friend who likes to play retro games, so this works perfectly for me if I want to invite him over. But here comes Krang flying in from the distance, and I love that they give you that little bit of an anticipation moment before he pops in when you get this pseudo 3D effect. Now weirdly, Krang being one of the big bads from the franchise, this is probably the easiest boss fight in the entire game, because you can really get him stun locked if you get him in the right pattern. Hit him with your attack, give him a kick, and if you time it up just right, he will not get that missile out, and it becomes that much easier to beat him. He does have a second stage that you can't really bypass where he drops those bombs from the air, but if you just watch the shadows, you're never going to get hit by them, and it makes it really easy. And I love that he pops out, wiggles those little arms of his, and says we're going to pay before he blasts off into space. Krang may be one of the best character designs in the game in my opinion, and definitely in the cartoon as well. But now we're in the Wild Wild West with some Back to the Future vibes going on here. But another great soundtrack track, so go ahead and listen for like 30 seconds and I'll come back and close the video out and tell you a little more about Turtles in Time. Enjoy. It's like a funky western theme, and it works perfectly in the context of Turtles in Time. But now we're going to fight Leatherhead here, and he's got his dukes up. I just love all the boss fights in this game, and I'm going to say that this is definitely better than the original arcade game. But maybe, just maybe, you might see that pop up on this playlist as well, maybe in like 3 weeks or so, because honestly, it is still a spectacular game, or maybe I'm lying to you, it'll be something completely different. But again, if you've never played Turtles in Time, I highly recommend you check it out. Now, you can emulate the arcade version. You don't need to own an original board like I do, but you can also just play on the Super Nintendo, and you really aren't missing much of anything, honestly. And the additions are more important than the subtractions, especially with those Mode 7 levels as well. But this is another spectacular 16-bit beat-em-up, a genre I love, based on a Saturday morning cartoon that I love. And if you've never played Shredder's Revenge, the newest game in the franchise, at least at the recording of this video, then you definitely need to check that out as well. But the Turtles were huge back when I was a kid. They are still huge, and I'm sure in 10 years we'll be playing another new TMNT beat 'em up. Short of that, thanks so much for watching, guys. Comment down below and tell me what you think. I'll be back next Saturday with more cartoons, and I'll have videos Monday through Friday as well. I make a lot of crap now. See you guys next time. Bye bye.